Yesterday, Brown and Stephen Pearl got to talk about the NIT, cut number 1.
You remember when I commented on this right after Auburn accepted the bid?
Well, I've talked to Stephen Pearl via text a couple of times about the comments that went out. I think Forster's the one that chops these up and sent them out.
He does, and I had no problem with Scott sending them out because
we never do.
No, I stand by everything I said. I just wish and I'll point this out, I wish I had made one thing clearer. I stand by everything I said. I don't back down from anything I said.
We never have a problem with anything I said?
I have never once said I've had an issue with anything you said.
I'm not talking to you.
Okay. Oh, I do. I do all the time.
Not always like
you have not painted that in a true fashion. I have no problem if I don't think it is actually portraying what I said in the whole conversation.
Yeah. If I say it, I say it, and I shouldn't say it if I don't want to be held accountable for it. And I was telling somebody before the show because they asked, have you had a chance to talk to Steven since your NIT rant? And I said, no, I have not. I said, he was coaching in the NIT. I'm going to leave him alone. I'm not going to reach out and say, hey, did you like what I say? Did you hate what I say? If he hated it, he's got every right to come to me and tell me he hated it, and he and I could talk it out like two men. So this is the first time I had a chance to talk to Steven. And I said, but I've known Steven a long time. He's a friend of ours. And if we disagree, we disagree. And I said, but it is the hardest part of this job is when you are friends with the people involved. We don't know. Alex Golish was the first time we'd ever been face-to-face with him yesterday. Very nice man, by the way. I really enjoyed our talk with him before the interview and after the interview. DeBoer, we were getting to know DeBoer a little bit. You know, he's friendly. But we've known Nate and Steven for a long time. And that's the hardest part of this job is when you have to criticize somebody that you know and like, or criticize maybe not them, but their program or a decision their program is making. That is a hard part of this job, but it's what we do for a living, so I got to do my job. The only thing, if I had it all back to do again, I wish I had been more forceful in saying the whole reason I have this stance about the NIT is because of where Auburn's program is. And that's the point I make to Stephen here.
No, the show doesn't think the NIT should exist.
I am anti-NIT, period.
That's
yes.
right. Yeah.
But as it relates to Auburn taking it, I just think Auburn's program is to the point where the NIT is beneath them.
That's why
that is a compliment to their program.
That's why I was very thankful that Forrester did not include my comment of saying I don't think the NIT should exist. I stand by that. I don't think we're playing a tournament for a championship over here, the national championship. I don't think the NIT or the Crown or the CBU or CBIs or all those, they should not exist, in my opinion.
Well, if the NIT exists, I think it should be lower teams. I don't think it should be power conference teams like an Auburn or something like that.
But once Auburn chose to go, Stephen Pearl explains the benefits that his program and his team and him, and we discussed them throughout the tournament, got from being in the NIT and are now, as I introduced him on T number 1 yesterday, the 2026 NIT champions.
We didn't deserve to be in the tournament because we lost 16 games. Doesn't matter how great our metrics were, but I had to fight like hell for my team to have a case, and ultimately we didn't get in. So, the next best thing was to go play 5 games on ESPN and try and finish the season on a high note. And, playing the NIT, I think it was a big reason why we were able to keep guys like Tahaad, Pettiford, and Kevin Overton, and it propelled us into a lot of momentum going into this transfer portal. So, I'm glad we did it. We finished with 22 wins, which is the 10th most in a single season in Auburn history. So, our guys accomplished a lot of things, but also, obviously we fell short of our ultimate goal, which is to advance in March.
I personally was very critical of you going to the NIT. You know that. And I was going to ask you, why am I wrong? Where am I wrong? And I think you just answered that question.
Yeah, I mean, I'm catching a lot of flack from the third best sports talk show in Birmingham. So, I mean, my decision to go to the NIT,
Yeah, you did not consult me for the record.
No, I just think, there was more, and we talked about this off air, but, I wasn't happy with the NIT. I agree with you that our standards and our expectations are higher than the NIT. And Auburn basketball, the brand, is better than playing in the NIT, right? And I don't disagree with you on that. But I think, I had to make a decision, strategically as the coach of, all right, do I just, fold it in right now and run the risk of losing everyone on that roster because we ended the year on a very sour note, or do I take a huge chance, go play in this NIT, and obviously if we lose, I'm going to get crushed. We won and I still got crushed. So, but I was able to keep my two best guards,
Right.
which
That's
I
right.
think was a big reason why we decided to play in it, was because we needed those guys to feel like having some positive momentum going into the offseason, but also, trusting what we were doing, because what we did during the season at certain times really did work. And we beat 5 pretty good teams, down the stretch in the NIT, to win a championship. And, I'm proud of the guys for hanging in there and making the best of a tough situation.
And where I failed is I should have voiced that better, saying that I do think that's where your program is. And it's a
Right.
compliment to you and the job you did as an assistant, your dad did as a head coach. And it's the first time in our lifetime Auburn has been in a position where you could actually say what I said. I should have voiced it differently, obviously, but I think that's the first time you could say, and that's a credit to where this program is, I think.
Yeah, I mean, you have a job to do. So, I mean,
Not a very tough one. As you
Yeah,
know.
I mean,
Yours is tougher.
you can have, obviously you're supposed to have your opinions, and a lot of fans did have that opinion. So I
Yeah.
mean, you weren't wrong in saying that, But I thought, for me, a lot more went into it than just like, all right, is Auburn too good to be playing in this
Right.
tournament? And that was the tournament that we deserved to be in. So why not go make the most of the situation, go win 5 more games, and try and end the season on a high note.
And then after that, he said the same thing he said on Mac and Cube earlier in the day. He said it on our show. He said it in the group interview on AL.com with the news that the tournament is expanding to 76 teams now. Auburn would have easily been in the NCAA tournament. And I asked him about the expansion, and he said, we didn't deserve to be in that tournament last year at 68. Going to 76 is going to water it down. And I was surprised he said that. It's going to water down the field. He was backing up the fact that they didn't do enough to be in the NCAA tournament last year. And he never shied away from that. He kept saying, we didn't do enough, despite the tough schedule, all that, the call against Texas A&M. That one call against Texas A&M that I joked about on the first tee, if that one call goes Auburn's way, they're in the NCAA tournament. That's how close they were to being in or out of the NCAA tournament. And now they will be in. And as a coach, he basically was like, I walked away saying, I don't think Stephen Pearl is excited about it going to 76 teams. I think if it was left up to him, he would keep it at 68.
I mean, I think he realizes his team was basically a 500 team. What were they, 17 and 16, and before the SEC tournament, and that's the type of team that's going to get in. And I think he's lived his whole career either playing in when he was at Tennessee, coaching in at Tennessee and Auburn, or watching the NCAA tournament. And he knows it's a tournament of excellence. Like, that is what that thing has always been built on. Is it's, we're defining the best team in college basketball through this gauntlet. And if you're going to do that, you don't want to drag along a bunch of 500 teams, I mean, honestly. So, I think it's a realistic view. I think he saw the teams they were on the bubble with, SMU, their team, and those teams are all easily in, and you feel like SMU from the ACC, they're easily in.
Yeah, he went on, and you can go watch our entire interview with Stephen Pearl on our YouTube channel. Audio for that as well? Do we break those down to audio too?
Yes, I've got it posted on Spotify and Apple Podcasts,
All right,
wherever you
perfect.
get your audio podcasts.
Yeah, so-
you can watch video on Spotify as well now, and you can also go to rumble.com and watch it over there as well.
And
It's everywhere.
And Stephen talks about the kind of teams, if they're going to 76, which it looks like they're doing, the kind of teams he would like to see be included in that, like mid-majors, low majors that had a great year and got upset in their championship game. He thinks they should be some of the ones getting these extra bids.
I just think exactly. He did kind of go to battle for the smaller teams.
Yeah, he basically was saying that Auburn, he didn't think deserved to be in the tournament. If we're going to expand it, give it to some of these mid-majors, or low majors that get upset in their tournament that are one-bid leaguers.
I will say, though, that if you – I'm not saying you need to approach it the way I approach it. I'm just going to tell you the way I approach it is like, you guys used to criticize me for this. I think you now are kind of on my side. I don't consider the Dayton games tournament games. Those are playing games to me. We can call it whatever we want, opening round, whatever they want. Those are playing games. Like, I don't think you've made the tournament until you're in the field of 64. And approaching it that way, this whole expansion thing hasn't really bothered me as much as it has some, because you can choose not to pay attention to those games, or you can watch the games, whichever one you want to do. But if you're like me, your real tournament starts on Thursday, and that's still 64 teams. There's nothing they're ever going to do to change that. When the actual tournament starts, it's going to be 64 teams.
So when you're thinking the basketball fan that grew up before 1985, the real tournament doesn't start until Saturday and Sunday, the 32 teams.
Well, perhaps if that's where
what it was.
If that's where
what
you
it was.
loved it, yeah. I mean, if you're an old school that it's 32 and 32 only, you don't have to watch it until Saturday or Sunday. I grew up on a 64-team field, and that's really when the tournament starts for me, is that 11-10 start on Turner or CBS or wherever on Thursday. That's the start of the tournament for me. Those other games, I may watch them. Those are not NCAA tournament games. Those are play-in games. You're no more in the tournament than somebody that's sitting at home. To me, that's the way I approach it.
Yeah, you're going to be blown away if the Carolina Panthers or the Jaguars or a team like that ever wins the Super Bowl. They weren't around when you were a kid either.
I mean, they've already played. Both of them already played one.
I know. But
Jacksonville's been an AFC championship. Let me draw that back.
Yeah, the expansion there is going to kill you.
Yeah.
1997 World Series champions. Was that the Florida Marlins?
It was.
For you?
That was Florida Marlins.
Yeah, that wasn't part of your childhood either.
It was not.
It's going to be 76 now, and what the heck? Look at it this way. I think there are 331 teams now playing Division I basketball. And what is it now in football? We're about to watch the Orlando Magic is one win away from eliminating the number 1 seed Detroit Pistons.
It's crazy.
8 seed, and what is that? 16 teams. Add the play-in games now. So you got 20 NBA teams out of how many? 30? 32? What is the NBA? 30 teams. I don't know how many's in the NBA. You got 20 of the 30 that make the playoffs, or in your eyes, the play-in games. Now
they literally call those play-in games.
And now you've got Orlando, who's about to win a 4-game series against the number 1 seed Detroit Pistons. And I mean, they're in the once you get to the tournament, then you're playing. Maybe Orlando can't win it, but they're there to eliminate Detroit, who obviously is a false number 1. So if you've got 76 teams in, maybe one of those teams that are 52 to 76 can't win it, but maybe one of them can show the flaws in a potential champions, and eventually the best team's going to end up, maybe not the best team, but the deserving team's going to end up winning it all.
And that's the beauty of the NCAA tournament. Like, if you're a flawed number 1, you're going to get found out. Like, I'll give a good example, St. Joe's. The year Jameer Nelson and St. Joe's, Phil Martelli were the number 1 seed, and a lot of people are like, but are they really? I mean, is the Atlantic 10 going to stand up the you're going to get found out. You're not going to be a fake number 1 and make it through the NCAA tournament. You can't win 6 games and be a fake team like that. So that's the beauty of that tournament. It's going to weed out the bad teams. Like, if you're a bad team that's part of this field of 76, you're going to get weeded out. Now, there are teams that get hot and go, but that means that somewhere in them was a good team, and they just turned it on at the right time.